Hey guys, welcome to the Caffeinated Corner. I'm here with Mitchy and we're gonna talk all about her.
Me.
Yes. Okay, so a couple of things that I like to bring up initially is always what is your go-to cafe order? Because the Caffeinated Corner, I try to make very close to a similar cafe experience style interview, even though we are in two very different places.
Okay. Yeah.
What cafe drink would you order?
I actually was a barista for like 2.5 years. So my go-to drink used to be I used to do like a latte, an iced latte with honey and cinnamon and brown sugar. That was like my immediate one. But now that I'm getting older and I've like learned to like the taste of matcha, I'm really into an iced matcha or like a matcha lemonade. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Honestly, that is my I gave up coffee last month, and so matcha became like the only thing I could drink. But that I'm usually a cinnamon coffee girl, and
Yeah.
so giving up the cinnamon coffee and going to matcha every day
It's hard.
felt like giving up a part of my existence.
Your identity. Like, yeah.
Yeah, my identity. I was like, no. But I was like, I feel so much healthier, but also
Fair. Yeah.
exhausted. I'm so
And the
tired.
energy is still, like the caffeine is still about the same. So it's like,
Yeah.
but I used to think that matcha tastes like grass, so I couldn't like tap into the vibe fully. But now, you know what I mean? With age comes wisdom and
Mhm.
the liking of the taste of grass, you know? Like,
Yes. I think I always try to get myself to like things that I haven't liked in a long time if people like try to influence me enough. I'm like,
see, I'm like,
I'll
I'm so individualistic to the point where I'm like, if everybody likes something, I'm gonna wait for the trend to die, and then I'm gonna be like, guys, you should try matcha. And they're like, it's been a year, and I'm like, okay.
yeah, kind of on that same framework. What's one thing you've been really into lately that people might not expect or is kind of like something you got into later on?
Hmm. I feel like I got like speaking of like artists, I feel like I got into Mitski super late because I like I feel like when she was popping up and becoming more known. I just wasn't ready. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't ready to accept the music yet. But I feel like that's the beauty of like music in general is that it just finds you. And I feel like a lot of the time people try to say like you should really like this artist. And it's just like, no, the music has to find you in due time. And when you're at the right mental state and you're ready, all of the words will feel like they're written for you. And that's kind of how I felt with Mitski, where like so many of my friends were like, you need to tap into the vibe. And I'm like, I so badly want to tap into the vibe, but the vibe doesn't want me right now. So I'm just gonna wait until like her words become law for me. And then it happened very organically. And I love her.
Yeah, I feel like I had a similar experience with Mitski where I would listen to a couple of her songs, but I wasn't like fully ingrained into the
Mhm.
whole Mitski universe until I actually went to one of her shows.
Mhm.
And then I was like, oh, it's like an
Yes.
experience. Like it's
That
more than just music. It was a whole show.
it's like a world. Well, that's kind of how I felt with Clairo's album Sling. I couldn't tap into Sling when it came out because I felt like Sling was a very winter fall album and it came out in the spring. So I was like, this doesn't feel the way that Outside feels yet. Now that I've like really digested it, I feel like it's an every season album and it's one of my favorite albums. But I didn't listen to the album and I was like actually writing a paper in college and my friend texted me. She's like, "What are you doing right now?" And I was like, "I'm trying to finish, I'm doing a final. Like I need to finish this paper." And she was like, "What if you finish the paper tomorrow and you came and saw Clairo tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I went to the concert and literally like world changing. I felt like I was able to experience the album. And because I hadn't listened to it, I didn't know any of the words. So I didn't feel like any pressure to like sing and know it. I was just like seeing it as like almost like an orchestra, like a live performance, and it was gorge.
Yes. I also went to Claro. Amazing. Truly, truly like two of like the coolest concerts like you can go
Mhm.
to because people are just kind of there. Well, some of them.
Yes,
Minus the barkers. Like
exactly.
minus the barkers, like it's such a
Unnecessary
good
work.
yes. It's just like really great.
Mhm.
So kind of on that topic, in terms of your music, I want to kind of start in the beginning of how you got into music, kind of like the origin story. I know we've kind of talked about this prior, but I think it will be cool to kind of like do a roadmap per se of kind of how you got into music and then where you are now.
Yeah, I so like growing up, I grew up in church and I still go and still like sing in church. And I feel like worship music was my first kind of sight of music as like a live sense. And then like the synergy of like being with other people who know and understand music, that was like my first introduction to it and like the most sacred form of music to me still. But me, my sister, and my cousin, like we used to sing as like a group at church, and I thought that I was the worst one, so I never like would want any solo parts or anything. And I was like just generally deterred. But I was like, I love music. I just don't think that I am good at it. Ironically, I'm the only one that does music now out of the three of us. Um, so starting in church and still like pursuing that love for it, it kind of evolved into when I was 13, I got my first guitar from my parents actually copying the same cousin because she got one first, and I was like, wait, what if I want one too? Um, so then I got one, started playing, and then kind of taking it more seriously during the pandemic, which I feel like is a lot of people. It's like you have an insane amount of free time, and it's like, how do I live and find some joy in something that's not outside because outside is canceled until further notice. Um, so I started playing and I saw other indie musicians, specifically Leith Ross. I remember seeing them post covers and I was like, wait, I love what they're doing. And I don't know, the accessibility of doing it. Music always felt so out of reach because it's like you need a label and you need a manager and you need all these things that felt so unattainable for me, especially being first gen. Like I didn't think anybody was gonna find me anywhere. And that's the beauty of the internet. So I saw artists like Leith Ross doing amazing things with music, and I was like, I could tap in. And then I think if you like scroll really far back on my TikTok, which I don't recommend that anybody does, you'll see like really old videos. I don't know if I privated all of them. I might have. Like they're just so bad. But like I started posting just in my room and getting more comfortable with recording myself. And then later it turned into like not just covers, but also writing my own music and expressing how I felt. And I think maybe my sophomore year of college is when I actually started really writing music and putting my thoughts into melodies and into words and whatnot. And yeah, the rest is history, really.
The rest is history. So, in terms of your artist journey, do you feel like you would have ended up putting out music and pursuing your basically your current project if it weren't due to being isolated or having this certain amount of time
Yeah.
with like
Yeah.
COVID, you know?
I don't really think so. I think that like the isolationism of COVID made me realize that like in the best way possible, like we really are like all alone. And it's like how can we as individuals create a sense of camaraderie through like isolation? And I don't think that anybody would have realized that without COVID, because like you would go to school or you would go to work or you would like you just always were around people and you can have like conversations. I think that like I'm a talker. So like I would just like talk, you know? But then when like the act of physical talking and like quality time is taken away from you, it's like how do you replicate that sense of community? And I feel like I found that through music, if that makes any sense.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's perfect. I feel like the value of community is even more
Mhm.
prevalent now than it
Yeah.
was before, and kind of like the artist community online and being able to navigate that and figure out like where you kind of fit.
Mhm.
I would say a question I have would be, was there any parts of like growing up, what kind of aspects do you kind of take into songwriting in terms of, is it collaborational on like people you've met, or do you kind of reflect more on your past experiences growing up, where you live,
Yeah.
etc.?
I feel like a lot of my songwriting, especially being first gen, is like very self-reflective. And it's like, how did my upbringing inform my adulthood and like what it means to be an adult, what it means to be like a woman, what it means to be like multifaceted, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And um, I think that like, wait, there was a point that you mentioned I wanted to. No, I think that like, oh, I write my songs very independently. I've had a couple writing sessions and they've been awesome, but I think that like the most um vulnerable things for me come out when I'm alone because I'm less scared to say it. And I don't know why, like in my head, I'm like, if I'm singing it, I'm not saying it. So it's like
Hmm.
it's like applied to me, but like not really. And I think I write a lot of my songs like I'm journaling. Um, it doesn't, none of them really have like a song structure. Like there's not like a verse and a chorus and a bridge, then another chorus and another verse. Like it's just very open, and that's because it literally is like a stream of consciousness. And I usually don't like to go back and like rework my lyrics or anything. I'm like, whatever comes out in the
Hmm.
moment, whatever melody is played is like, that's law. That's that's it.
Yeah.
When I like stray too much, I have like obviously gone back and tweaked lyrics, but I just feel like it's most authentic when it comes out, how it comes out. Like Your Last Breath, for instance, that was very, I didn't go back and redo any of the words. Like, also that song has like, it's my favorite that I really,
Yeah.
but it has no structure. Like,
Hmm.
it's just lyrics, and it like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's what makes me like it the most and resonate with it the most.
No. Perfect. Yes. I'd love to talk more about Your Last Breath, especially I feel like you perfectly kind of encapsulated all of my thoughts
The
and
fear.
questions
Are you an
into
anxious,
like
avoidant attachment style?
avoidant attachment.
Anxious and avoidant, like the both.
Yes.
Okay, same.
I literally, funny enough, I literally just made a playlist about that. It's just,
Period. That's literally what the song is. It's like,
yeah. That's why I was like, my brain.
no, I actually snuck into your room, cracked your brain open. Like in Severance, I severed you, and then I took your innie and I let it
Oh
rot.
my
You
God.
know what I mean?
That is like one of the top things on my like things to watch. Like
Oh,
I'm
you have
currently,
to tap in.
yeah, I'm one of those people who can't watch as more like I can't watch more than one thing at a time.
There.
And so I was in a very like anti like TV phase. And then I started watching The White Lotus, and then people were like, "You should watch this." And then I was
Mhm.
like, "Yeah." But no more of that. I think kind of like focusing on Your Last Breath. Was there like, you say it's like a very free-flowing song. Was there like something that a specific moment or feeling that sparked that idea and kind of like got you on the path?
I think like lyrically, I was just in my room and I was thinking about all my friends and relationships, and like I'm 22, almost 23, and a lot of people that I know are like older than me. So there's so many people in my life like getting engaged, getting married, and like even my friends that are my age, like getting relationships and all this stuff. And I wrote this song, I think a year ago, almost to the day, probably. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that'll happen for me. And it's not for like, it's not because I don't think that I'm like interesting or pretty. It's just more so of like I don't know how I'm gonna let somebody in this way because I hear like how vulnerable relationships are, and I just never ever thought I would find that, and it kind of just came out as like, okay, what is it about myself that I think would make me hard to love? And that's kind of where I started. And like the first verse being like, take me unpalatable, like sometimes I'm jarring. And I don't know if like somebody's gonna want somebody that's like jarring, you know? And yeah, that's kind of just how it started. It was like I have the desire to love and be loved, coupled with the fear of being vulnerable enough for somebody to fully know me and fully love me. And I'm actively working on that, you know? And yeah, I think it's like so much less common, especially for women, to express being avoidance. I think that's what makes like Lizzie McAlpine really interesting to people with her song Pushing It Down and Praying. Like that's avoidant anthem. Like but I think that a lot of the time people expect women to just be fully anxious. And I find Your Last Breath to be very interesting because it's both. Like I'm stressed out about this and I want it, but I'm also gonna push you away if you give it to me, but also like I don't want to. Like if I push you away, I kind of want you to come closer. So it's like
Yeah,
nuts. But again, like working on all of that and just letting
yeah,
it exist.
yeah. I feel like that's obviously something, like I said, that I think I kind of gripped onto like your music
Mm.
because of that. I think it's a similar brain,
Yeah,
similar
literally.
brain structure. And
Literally.
I think like obviously it's something that has kind of like existed in your music for a while. And I kind of want to talk like finalizing like your future music. Is this like something that you're looking to like continue? Can you give us any hints or like yeah.
Yes, I'm really excited. I've been in the stew, okay? I have. Everybody can stop being mad at me. I have been in the studio.
I've
Um,
been in this too.
I've been in the stew. And still like themes of vulnerability, like uh working on, and I've been listening to the people I know that they want my mother's daughter, and that is being worked on. And I also like am working with playing with different like aspects of my voice. I feel like I'm known for singing higher, but I speak like super low, so kind of playing with those dynamics. Um, and also just yeah, like being more open and hoping that people find my music when it's time. I know that like I Hate It Too had a huge moment, which is awesome. I hope that like people love and grasp onto the songs that are less popular and find themselves in every aspect of my music. Um, Hopefully it makes people who are very closed off able to be more open, and yeah, just more on the way. Maybe an EP.
More on the way.
Maybe,
Maybe,
maybe.
maybe. I think kind of like closing on that, I feel like the whole teasing thing gets to me. Every time I see you see something, I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, and
That's
the
kind
worst part is that like I will fully like write a song, record a voice memo, post it on Instagram, fall asleep, forget it ever existed, and then I'll get like a DM from someone being like, "Can you please stop playing around and put this out?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't think you guys cared." Oh, so I didn't think you guys.
Thank
But
you
yeah,
for caring.
thank you for caring. No, literally, thank you for caring.
Yes, that's definitely I myself am very excited for
Yeah.
your next project and I can't wait to hear it. Definitely want everyone to go check out all of your music that's out. Your Last Breath. I hate it. Wait, I think I really enjoy art a lot and I feel like your all of your covers are super dimensional. feel like it's always like certain like dimensions or like either like something is like cut up, right? Or like in your last breath, I feel like there's obviously like the light that comes out of the
Mhm.
person that I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I kind of wanted to like, how did that come to be?
I love cover art because I am a judge a book by its cover kind of person. And I know I shouldn't be, and I know I shouldn't be, but I am, and I forever will. So, first with I just want to shout out like my friends that do all my cover art for
Oh,
me. They're
yes.
literally awesome. My friend Sarah Kate Rice, she designed like she does a graphic design, and every single time I tell her like some crazy thing that I have in my head, and I'm like, do you think that you can make this happen? She's like 1,000%. She also did the like the loop that plays on the Spotify background for I Hate It Too. And that's like a tissue box with my face on it, and you're like pulling a tissue box. I love that. And my two other friends, Hannah Middleton and Evelyn Armstrong, they shot different covers for me, and they just are such talented artists. Um, yeah, they're just amazing. So with Wasted Youth, that was actually shot at like a skate park in my area, and we just like took all the like Sarah Kate photoshopped all the trees out, and I just wanted it to feel like desolate and kind of like barren because when you're like wasting life away, you just feel kind of stranded, and I just wanted to portray the isolationism that comes from like not knowing what you're doing in life and being super duper confused and alone. And I feel like that covers perfect. Like she's just amazing. And
Yes.
then for I Hate It Too, that song's all like obviously about insecurities, which is something that's like crazy to me because I'm like talking about how much I hate myself and people are like, this is good. This is
Me
good.
too. Me too. I love myself, but also
Exactly. It's
it's
like
like you look so good, but also.
you look so good, but like I'm hating, and I'm loving, I'm hating. Like it's duality. And
Hmm.
so the idea for that was to like kind of magnify the thing, like your insecurities. I think a lot of my insecurities are like more intangible. But yeah, like your face or your eyes or your mouth or like your teeth or just all these things that like make people people, but also make people feel so small in their own body. And yes, I was kind of playing around with that. And the black and the white, which is like, again, you want to be kind of no neutral, like I want everything to be the same, but the thing with the color is like that's what makes you interesting and different. And it's just important, you know? And then for Your Last Breath, that's also one of my favorite covers. That one is so like my friend, his name's Rawad. Shout out Rawad for for volunteering. Um, and I had this idea of him being like an orb of light because I think that love is a beautiful thing when you can have it, but it also like us going past each other was like, does it even feel tangible? Like you get like glimpses of it, but maybe it's not something that you get to ever really have. And yeah, so it's like I know that love exists, I know it's there, I can see it, it's this bright thing, but I'm walking past it and it's walking past me is kind of it.
So beautiful.
Thanks.
Definitely worth to talk about. I just truly I think I'm also very visually like stimulated and I'm an aesthetic person every time I see something. And I think that's kind of how I got into this was visuals and music. I feel like they go together so well that I'm glad you feel the same. Definitely my favorite. So kind of like on your music, can you tell me a little about like some of your inspirations? And lastly, if you could use three words to describe your music, what would they be?
Okay. My inspirations, I feel like in the vocal aspect, like growing up listening to gospel music and appreciating it, I love like vocal layering. So there's definitely like gospel influences there. And um in terms of like artists that I love, I love Dijon. I think that he's so interesting and like lyrically interesting, visually interesting. His whole vibe is just like very authentic. And I love Indigo D'Souza because I think that she's very emotive. And I always seek to be emotive and as much as possible.
Mhm.
And also Adrienne Laker is awesome. And she's like she's a painter in her like lyrics and I that's something that I really like. I like that in a lot of her music. She doesn't say like I or me or anything like that. It's just very like beautiful. Like Dragon in the New Warm Mountain, didn't you believe in me? What? Where did that come from? Like where did that come from? Who's touching her pen? Like it's just beautiful and it's like eloquent. I feel like those are my big three. And then if I could describe my music in three words, um, pensive. I hate the word sad because I don't think that it's sad. I think it's reflective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sad is kind of like limiting. So I'd say
Yes.
pensive, yearning, and hmm, hopefully pretty. Like it's pretty music to
Ready.
listen to. But also kind of like grimy. Like I feel like Your Last
Hmm.
Breath was like it kind of starts pretty and then it gets like, oh, I'm kind of pissed.
I feel like not to like add to it, I feel like duality is
I
a
was
good
gonna
one.
say duality.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of like have both of them.
Yeah.
And it's like come up like as a word like throughout like our talk.
Yes. Yeah. And like also, okay, now I'm thinking of more words like intentional. Like I think of like
Yes.
very meticulous, like with I Hate It Too, for example. There's at one point where there's a Wurlitzer piano that comes in and it sounds like kind of bubbly. And I love that because it's like almost do 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 do. And then you're like towards the end, you're like, oh, where did that piano go? Where did that like sweet little sad little moment go? And now
Yeah.
we're pissed.
Yeah. We're fit. Well, I'm very thankful that you got to join me today. And yeah, this is
For
another
having me.
episode. Of course. No, thank you for coming. Um, this has been another episode of the Caffeinated Corner. Make sure to check all the other ones out. And thank you for joining me. Bye bye.
Thank you.